maybe it's sort of like a, I think I'm thinking about this point about what rational people need to learn, because I mean there are things that, like, various people that are sort of rationally minded people, though they still haven't figured it out. They still haven't figured out particular things, not actually, like, they'll credit somebody with being, like, with malice, right? That's a malicious person, greedy person, and or so forth, right? It's like sheer malice. Okay, or they variably would need, okay, they would need a credit of malice if to actually be described. All right, like well, it's a malicious person. No, that's a dum-dum. Matter of fact, it's a dum-dum. Matter of fact. Like, there are reasons about doing things right, and yeah, there are reasons about doing things right, and if they can't figure that out, not actually, then they're dum-dums. Okay, they're not certain about why, really, not at all. Okay, that's not a malicious person, not actually, that's a dum-dum. Matter of fact, it's a dum-dum. It's a dumb as dumbass. Okay, rationally thinking people should figure that out. That's not a malicious person, not at all. That's a dumbass. And it's like they're all looking at this, looking at this, looking at this all the time, turning their wheels about this. Okay, and so it's like, wait, how can they say this and how can they say these things and be an absolute fucking retarded dumbass? They're looking at this, okay? That's really all they're looking at. It's this thing right here, this, whatever these things actually are. All right? That's still a dumbass. That's still a dumbass. That variably can't even, that's variably criminally insane, absolutely criminally insane, can't tell the difference between right and wrong, has not slightest conception about the differences between right and wrong. They practice wrong. If they catch a little glimpse that they're wrong, they're going to say that's right. Okay? Practical. La la la. Okay? That's a criminally insane individual, is the point. Okay? Though it's like, with all that practice, it's sort of like crime doesn't pay. Crime doesn't pay. Okay? And it's like, how many redundancies do I need to go through in order for them to realize crime doesn't pay? And what that means? Huh? What? So, like, crime doesn't pay, the victims pay. No. No, really, not at all. That's not what that means. Not at all. And various other redundancies. Crime doesn't pay, though. I mean, crime happens and then doesn't pay. No, that's yet other redundancy about the fact that a bunch of people don't really understand. Not actually, they make these suggestions, and that, okay, it's a big part of it actually is about what they're not suggesting about, what's not on their itinerary, what's not in their schema about things that they're talking about. That's how you can identify somebody that's plausibly criminally insane, plausibly absolutely dumb, okay? Partly about what they're not talking about. They're talking about this. They're not talking about various other things that are much more important amidst life upon this planet. Okay? What's right? It's like, well, what's law? Well, law is implicitly law. All right? Yeah, there are different systems. Okay? There are different governments, and that's cool. All right? And they're structured differently. It's sort of like, okay, so I have a 2-cycle motor, and then upon a shelf I have a 4-core processor and a 1-barrel carburetor. Okay, and that's like one government. And then, okay, well, I have a television, and then upon the shelf I have a 5-disc CD changer, and a video game console. Okay, so that's like a different government, and allegorically it's sort of like that. Okay, different systems, they have different things that go with them. The law is implicitly law. Well, what's the point about law? Law is important, okay? Law is what facilitates the probable survival of species within total context. All right? Yeah, there are rules that facilitate the probable survival of species. And so this whole thing about, like, okay, so what percentages? Okay, like I'm gonna guess, I'm gonna estimate that there are 40% of that 40% of the global population are plausibly rationally thinking people. That doesn't mean they have everything figured out, not actually, though they're plausibly rationally thinking people. And then about 60% primitives. Okay, I mean, it's like a really prolonged period of a primitive civilization of the human species. A bunch of primitive tag-alongs. Okay? Though, what have the rational people not figured out, not actually? That they credit fucking criminally insane and retarded people with malice. Okay? That's what they haven't figured out, not actually. Those actually are retarded people. Those actually are dumb people. Those actually are criminally insane people. Okay? That they're it's not that they're it's like, well, they're smart though they're malicious. That's really a big contradiction. Okay? That's a contradiction of terminologies. It's a dichotomy. Dichotomy. Two different terms that really contradict each other. Like, yeah, it's not really an oxymoron, not actually. It's just a couple of things that really contradict. Okay, you can't be smart and malicious, not at all. There are reasons to actually be reasonable. Okay? Though, yeah, there are things that rational people haven't that really should try and figure out. Like, don't credit people with malice, not at all. They're not malicious, not at all. They're dumbasses. Okay? And it's sort of like trying to explain, like somebody says crime doesn't pay. Well, okay, so a bunch of reasonable people, yeah, that makes sense. Crime doesn't pay. That makes sense. Okay? A bunch of other people, really, no, crime doesn't pay. And what they would try and rationalize, really, is that well, white Americans got away with it. No, they didn't. No, they did not. This land is Mayan. Okay, all of it. Matter of fact, the whole continent actually is Mayan. There are no deals, not even Alaska for $1 million, bud. No way. All right? Crime does not pay. Not at all. You don't get to keep all that stolen land. You don't get to keep imposing your white people like HUD. Oh, wow, HUD. The Housing and Urban Development Department of Housing and Urban Development. They made a thing in like, I think it was the 80s. The late 80s. Against segregating neighborhoods. It's like, oh yeah, so they want to impose white people. They want to impose white people upon Negro neighborhoods, and then like in the late 90s, they made I think it was the late 90s, something like that. It's on their website. Though they finally made some sort of they made a formal law against discriminating against tribals. It's like, psh. I just saw a beautiful bird out the window. That was really cool. So, yeah, I grew up in rural areas, starting after grade school, junior high. I was living in a rural area all through high school. My grandparents as well had acreages. That's my lasso. My grandpa got me that lasso. He had a friend that was really great at working a lasso, and I'd go out there to his place because he worked at horse shows while I was growing up. He worked at horse shows, so I'd go out there and ride horses. I actually wore cowboy boots and a hat. Yeah, because that hat keeps the sun off your neck. I mean, that sun will just, yeah, it'll cook the hell out of your neck, dude. Though a hat, a big old wide-brimmed hat really helps. Yeah, though I'd ride horses and lasso the calves and that sort of thing. Quite a lot of fun. Like, most people probably wouldn't guess that about me. Not actually, because I was sort of a hippie after high school. Even during high school, I was sort of a hippie. Though I'd still go out to my grandpa's farm and put on a pair of tight Levi's and a pair of cowboy boots and ride the horses. Though, I mean, it's like a good society. They're like, okay, it's good to actually talk about what's wrong in order for people to acknowledge the differences between right and wrong, okay? And that facilitates a solution, that facilitates what's right, okay? So, like a good society would consist of people living in the cities, letting the rural land go to the animals and all the wildlife. And a right government, amidst considering all of those homeless white people, they're absolutely homeless. They have no home, not at all. Not on this planet, not in outer space, not at all. Those are a bunch of vagrants. And though a good society would be a municipalism. Yeah, considering America, like transitioning to something that's sort of more reasonable, it'd be a municipalism. With my lightsaber lighter. Be a municipalism. Well, what's a municipalism? I made it up. All right. I'm the one that made it up. A municipalism actually would be like state governments actually work together to supply the needs of the people within the various states. Okay, people would live in the cities, and they'd let the rural land go to the animals, and they wouldn't work for land thief bankers anymore, not at all. So there are a lot of things about a municipalism that would improve people's quality of life. The value of the dollar would go up. Cost of living would go down. Cost of food would go down. Food production actually would increase quite a lot as well. Because it's not farmers out on 20 acre with out on 40 acres with 20 head of cattle tolling up the road to the feed store to get food for the cattle and then charging out the wazoo for the beef at the grocery store. Not at all. It's like, and it's not a big farm, independent farmer who's got 100 head of cattle or 200 head of cattle either. Not at all. All right. Municipalism, the farmers and the livestock herdsmen actually would work for the states. Okay? Yeah, and most all people, and concisely all people would live in the cities, though the farmers and the livestock herdsmen actually would work for the states. Okay? And they'd live in little station communities outside of the city. All right? There'd be like 1 or 2 cities in each state. It's sort of common sense, I would think. Though, yeah, most people would live in the cities. Let the rural land go to the animals. The state would manage the farmers and the livestock herdsmen and their production. Okay, so like food production actually would increase drastically. Cost of food would decrease considerably drastically as well. Uh, People would survive in the long-term context. All right. Looking at America, there's no way that people would survive 100 years. Not at all. Not 100. Not for 100 more years. Not at all. All the animals would die off. Food chain actually would be way out of balance. Viruses and plagues would happen on the way down. Okay. Though, yeah, I mean, because ecology and balance of biological materials seems sort of common sense. Really, seems sort of common sense. Like when biological materials get out of balance, then plagues and viruses happen. And I mean, and as well, when biological materials get so out of balance that it's a bunch of inbred Europeans, white Europeans, that wanted to actually populate the total Mayan continent, but that's detrimental to all life within existence. Okay? That's way out of balance. Do you understand? Yeah, so not going to happen. And crime doesn't pay means something else. How about survival of the fittest, bud? Survival of the fittest. That ain't about having the most guns or having the biggest muscles. Not at all. When it comes down to it, the fittest actually are the most intelligent. It's the only way that a species would survive. Law and so forth. Yeah. Though a good society, dude, after people got used to it, everybody would enjoy it a lot more. They'd live better lives. Yeah, and they'd work half as much each week. About half as many hours each week, about 20 hours. Cost of living would be a lot less, and so forth. Maybe all those government planners want to actually go ahead and plan their own eulogy. Yeah, for their government, okay, their failed government, a eulogy for it, that'd make it a lot easier. Dude, if that's what they decide, oh well, okay. Though I'm tribal Mayan, it's really easy for me to suggest I'm not American, not at all. Though, I mean, an intelligent and conscientious person should be a little bit conscientious, maybe, of their own context. Oh well. There are various rational thinking people out there. Though, yeah, I mean, that's not about malicious people, man. Not at all. That's about retarded people. Goddamn. Don't. I mean, you'd be crediting them to call them malicious. Don't call them malicious. Not at all. They're dumb. Dumb. They can't figure out about why. Really, not actually. And that's what a bunch of rational people should try and figure out and realize. So. So anyway. See, I'm tribal. I don't have any lips. You notice that? I mean, I've got a little bit of a lower lip. Though I have no lips, right? It's sort of weird. Though anyway, good luck, y'all. Yeah.